Today on the episode, AI note-takers sued for collecting voice prints without consent. What happens when GRC Engineering meets AI? Deep dive into ISO 42001 and Salt Typhoon breaches Congress. This is Distilled Security Podcast.
Somewhere right now, someone is digging through folders trying to find the right version of an evidence file for the third time this week. Controls scattered across a dozen systems, owners who left the company months ago, due dates that already passed, and nobody noticed. It's how it's always been done, and somehow we just accept it. There is a modern, better way. Episky. Visit us at episky.com/DSP for a special offer.
If you're leading a company today, you're not short on ideas. You're buried under them. More tools, more frameworks, more initiatives that were supposed to help and somehow made everything harder. Minus Partners exists for leaders who don't need another thing added. Minus Partners helps leadership teams remove friction that's been normalized over time, so execution gets easier, not harder. Less noise, clear decisions, faster execution. Minus Partners. What you remove defines you.
All right. Welcome back to Distilled Security Podcast. If you noticed, we have a couple of new things going on in the podcast. We're starting to run some ads into it. To start off with, we had some of our own companies sponsoring this podcast, which we're truly grateful for. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. But we are open for other sponsors. We're actually looking for some of them. So if you want to reach a good GRC cybersecurity leadership podcast with hundreds of people listening each episode, please feel free to reach out to us. We'd be happy to talk to you and get your ads up on the podcast here. To dive into the topics here, we're looking at the first topic, BIPA with AI note-takers. And I think, Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, you use this note-taker, right?
I use several note takers,
okay.
But yeah, the one that they're talking about in this article. So, was reading one of the JD Super articles. They're always great for what's going on.
We just talked about them last episode.
Yeah, I thought so. And BIPA is the Biometric Information Privacy Act, and that's from Illinois. So what happened was, as these AI tools are moving faster than the law and policy, and they're starting to do things. And what's happening here, it's not just like you're recording somebody, but the recording system actually can take your voice into a voice print and understand who it is and then be able to store that information. All of a sudden, they're saying that's biometric information.
Sure.
So that's like the crux of it. So Illinois is saying if you're doing that, it's more than just consent that you're being recorded, or more than just disclosure you're being recorded, but you probably need to be getting consent from the people being recorded, and it needs to be explicit, written, like a whole lot of extra things that you may not think to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I found it really interesting because me looking at this, and it's always confusing with the law, but like, who's responsible for it? From an agency, is it the actual tool responsible to collect that consent, which is who's getting sued into this, or is it the actual company that employed the tool, into that? And I don't know if they're getting sued and everything.
I actually looked this up a little bit
because what'd you find out?
So I saw a note about indemnity and specifically some analysis that suggested, based on case precedent and based on how liability shields work in practice, it's you as a company on the line.
Ultimately. And that's what I figured. Would figure.
You're the company that's pushing the button to say, let the AI note taker into the call.
Yeah, because there's two things that can go wrong, right? There can be an abuse of, say, the AI model itself, right? Data that's your data used to train other models, or those sorts of things. The vendor is liable for abuses on that front. But how you use their tools is basically always on you. Every SaaS platform basically says, if you break the law, like with our tools, that's on you. So it's basically
if it's out of the terms and conditions of what the AI company says, like, okay, we're responsible for this, we're treating your data like this, but how you use the tool, make sure you follow applicable laws and regulations,
and
type of thing.
And there's like a library of precedent already, because it's like it's all tech stuff. There's been tech lawsuits forever that just being applied to this. And one of the notes in particular I saw, I was like, oh, that makes sense, was around how, companies have errors and omissions insurance for like issues if they misuse their client's data, basically, in a bad way. But
or use in a way they don't disclose.
Right.
Because the FTC has gone after people like that,
Yeah.
for whatever data that they're collecting, they're like, oh, you didn't say that.
Right. But if you're the if you're the company that runs the note taker app and one of your clients doesn't get the appropriate, attestations that it's okay to record people or whatever, like that's their use of your tool.
Right.
Typically, your insurance won't pay out for that because it was client's use of your tool. And then you as a vendor put in a place where you have to fight your client on who owns that liability.
Yeah.
So most of the T's and C's just have it written in out of the gate. And like all your Microsofts and Googles and Zooms, basically that's how it works.
Yeah, so it's just like thinking of the craziness of it and some of the stuff you wouldn't expect. And so as you think about what you need to do, speaker identity, cadence, emotion, these are things that are the AI can actually talk about. Do you ever use, take a transcript and throw it into AI and say, give me my notes, but at the end also give me the sentiment of the customer
analysis,
of how they felt about us after that.
Yeah.
And it's like analyzing all the things, and it's trying to take the those pieces. Now, if you're just taking a transcript with none of the other like cadence and all that kind of stuff, it's just the words, then it's not really getting that. It's just going to take it from the words. But I never tried this. You've tried analyzing audio and having it do that? That's something maybe to test out.
So I've worked with customers. I mean, so yes, I've seen that from a customer service perspective. They'll actually see if customers are irate or not and escalate it up to like people that are trained to deal with irate customers, type of thing. So I've seen that in play, but I've also seen where banks have used some type of like voice authentication where they'll actually try to determine whether this is the user that's called in before talking about a claim or whatever it is, especially when you're dealing with like large money. Like I've worked with like retirement places and all that stuff when you're dealing with, 6-7 figure places and they're like, I'd like to cash out. They use a lot of tools to make sure that.
So every time you call, it's
basically,
totally big money. Gotcha.
But yeah, so I mean, and I'm not sure they get consent on the end user every time with that because it's, they put it into like, we're allowed to do this per our terms and service. And
I imagine they would
prevent fraud.
I imagine they would up front. Like, hey, you're opening the account. Oh, do you want extra security? Oh, okay, agree to these things. And then,
those 15 pages of things you got to sign.
Ton, so maybe in some of the contracts, but if you buy contracts or merge into something like that, I mean, you think about it. You call up a call center. You're not. I mean, they might say it's recorded for quality, control and all that stuff.
But that's like the whole point. That's the whole point of the BIPA stuff is because they're like, well, now it's a biometric. It's not just a recording.
Right. Yeah. But you can turn any recording into a biometric.
We can now.
Like that was the joke when we were talking about this topic before. It's like, I got a Sony Walkman. I'm going to record you. And you're like, well, no. It's a voice print. But if I have a recording of you, I can get a voice.
You can then take it and have AI. Right. You can feed it to AI later.
It's almost like, and I think we might have talked about this on the prior podcast, but like how all the encrypted data breaches of the past, when like quantum hits, they all become unencrypted, and all those problems that like had kind of been, noted. Oh, it was encrypted when we lost the drives. Who cares?
Right.
This is kind of the same thing. Oh, all these recordings that you have. Oh, well. You couldn't do large-scale biometric analysis on them before.
Prints on them,
but now you can.
Now if you know the name of the person, you can associate it with the recording.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, most companies are assuming, hey, we disclose this recording or we disclose that we are recording, and they think like, oh, the vendor is going to handle all the compliance stuff. I don't have to worry about that. And it's just a transcript. But what it turns into is, what are they doing with that in the back end that turns it into this extra stuff? And now what's happening is that it's going from theoretical to real. Plaintiffs' attorneys are actually targeting companies who are using AI transcriptions and note-taking tools. And so, I'm starting to see companies are putting together an extra set of policies for internal and putting it into some training and putting it into their employee handbook, a little blurb that says AI note takers may be used. and whenever we use it, here's what we want you to do. And one of the things I'm personally getting the habit of now is every time I join a call where the recording is already, in Teams you can say, oh, I want that call recorded. You just hit it in advance. It'll just start recording. So now when I jump on, it's just becoming a habit.
Right.
I'm just asking. I'm like, hey, everybody good? We're recording.
And at least for the normal person, because I do this exact same thing, I don't care about the recording or really the transcript. I like the notes. Take notes for me. Give me the bullet points. Give me the summary. Give me what we talked about, and give me action plans.
Yeah. The problem is that every time I do that with Microsoft Teams, there's 35 tasks on a thing that should have had 3. And I'm like, oh, that's got to get better.
Clean it up anyway.
But we're not complaining about that right now. We're complaining about a different problem. I know you commented on this. There's the no harm rule for this too.
Yeah, I was wondering what damages were actually taken on this. And I think it's the way, and you can correct me, I think it's the way BIPA is set up that they put it into that it's all basically civil lawsuits and everything. They turned it's not criminal, it's civil. So now every lawyer and their brother, want to basically sue for any wrongful step. And was there any remediation actually happen? Because if this participant was totally miffed that they were getting a voice print, wouldn't the first step be call the company, can you delete that?
Right.
And then if they delete it, it'd be like, okay.
Yeah, or I'm being recorded.
Right.
But one of the things I see Fireflies is doing, and the reason I like the Fireflies tool, although I'll probably just get everything in the Microsoft Teams and stop using that, but the Fireflies tool does several things. One is they have some good attestations and some good third-party audits of their practices. So I looked into those and I liked them. Nice. They also are doing this thing I kind of find a little annoying because if you're in a Teams call, it writes to the chat, hey, I'm Fireflies, I'm here, here's what you can do. But it makes it really easy. You can do some keystroke combination /FF for Fireflies and then leave, and it'll just leave. Anybody can do that.
Oh, nice.
So you don't have to be the meeting owner to do that.
That is nice.
In fact, when we're on some of our IANS faculty calls, some folks, their Fireflies are set to automatically join all their calls. Well, when they do the faculty internal calls, nobody from IANS is on it, so all the faculty can chat. So if you're an IANS faculty member, and I know I think some listen, 2 of us are in that right now, and we get on those calls, and then you'll see the recording on there. And it makes it really easy for somebody to control it. Anybody can say, oh, let's get it to leave. They don't have to be a meeting host.
I didn't know that.
That's cool.
That's nice.
Yeah.
The same thing with transcript on that from Microsoft Teams now seems to, or facilitator seems to have the ability to kick the recording out if you disagree, I think.
One of the practical notes that I think was interesting that I encountered when I was looking into some of this stuff was a suggestion to almost at the bottom of these emails, hey, if you receive this in air, you have to delete all that crap.
Don't tell me the banner thing.
Yeah.
Come on.
No, but from a legal
the most
perspective,
worthless security recommendation ever.
Well, because it's not security, it's liability.
Yeah, it's still.
Right? But so it was interesting because it said, okay, well, you might want to, if you're at a company, have a note that basically says no AI agents are allowed to be used unless there are AI agents. And those have to follow policy and all that stuff. And so, because some of the things
that should be a corporate. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's tool sprawl that you're
it is, but I mean, if you're companies have meetings all the time with people that aren't employees of that company, and they might bring their own AI agents.
That's just bringing in your own software like anything else.
Right, but so
or if you're my company and I'm joining a customer call, sometimes my customer will have their other AI agent or their note taker join.
Exactly right. And then it's your call, you're the host, but it's their AI agent who's responsible for the disclosures, the thing what policies.
It's whoever brings that AI agent to bear.
I don't know what the legal standing is, but the recommendation.
It's whoever controlling that software that's bringing it to record.
Well, they're the ones responsible for doing certain things. They own some of the liability.
If they're having Firefly as an example, dial in and actually do it, then they're responsible for that. I use a lot of Notion. Notion, I think a year ago, started to do their recording and transcript and all that stuff. The good, I like it. I can hit record on any call and nobody knows,
Sure.
type of thing. So I don't know if I'm disclosing something.
Yeah. We might need to, hey, can we edit this part out? No, I'm just kidding.
But yeah, it's nice. Like, and the nice thing about it, they integrate with calendar and everything. They're like, hey, you have a meeting in 1 minute. Do you want to start up a note and start the recording and launch into Zoom or Teams all at the same time with one button push?
Oh, wow. That's cool.
And it's nice. And like I said, I've never listened to one recording. I don't even they delete the recordings. It's the output. It's the output of what I'm looking like. Great. I got all the meeting notes and all that stuff. Yeah.
But back to the disclosure about no agents that aren't ours in a meeting that you set up. If you're in a three-party call or something like that, I agree with you as a matter of practicality, like who should own that. Mm-hmm. But legal disputes get messy. Yeah. And so the point is, it's kind of a fail-safe just to demonstrate your intent to follow rules more than anything else.
Right.
And no, I totally agree with you there. And the real situation is if I'm on a call with maybe two of my team members and we have a prospect on and the prospect has their note taker join, it's my responsibility in my mind, since I'm
probably the host of the call.
Yeah, I'm the most senior person on the call. Maybe I'm the host of it. I'm going to say, oh, okay, but I also have the ability in Teams to not allow their note taker to join. So I leave that sit in the waiting room along with mine, and I say, hey, is everybody good with the note taker joining?
That's a good way of doing it.
And then I just let them all in at once.
Yeah.
And what I've done, though, with my team, and I say, well, a lot of times some of our customers or some of our prospects have their own note takers join. Mm-hmm. So be aware of that. And be careful what you say, because we don't have control over the recording, and also be careful because we don't know that they're recording like Justin does, and maybe they are capturing their own.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
and you should always, from a consultant perspective, you have to be okay and cautious at the same time.
Yep.
Yeah.
With both of those.
Yeah.
From a company perspective, I agree with you. That's only polite to ask about recording. Like, I like how Zoom does it where, as soon as somebody joins, it's like recording in progress.
Yeah.
Type of thing. Like, there's no doubt. Clear. Like, it's like, okay, I know right now, before I even start, there's a recording going on, and I can be okay with it or not and deal with it, type of thing.
Yeah. So I've actually, it just reminded me, I'm not going to say the name of this person or this company, but it's somebody that I've talked to or respect a lot, and they are an attorney who is an expert in privacy, and they're also in charge of, like, the most senior person in charge of maybe not all of InfoSec, but they cover all the GRC stuff.
Okay.
And they make sure that all of the external audits they have. Yeah. So they really know what they're doing. And some of the customers that they work with will bring their own recording. Mm-hmm. And that own recording might hear things the wrong way and transcribe the wrong amount. So imagine that you're talking about that the fee for this service is going to be $50,000, but it records it and hears $30,000.
Yeah. 5 or 500 are both bad.
Yeah.
Right. And it hears the wrong number. And when you go to a lawsuit, whoever has the best notes usually has a better case.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so if you have the best notes but they're wrong and the other person doesn't have any notes, then you were going to have less of an argument.
We talked about this before.
Did we?
And I think we were talking about, the accuracy and whether you'd be held liable to what some of these note takers were taking.
Right. Oh, yeah. That's right.
And I'd like to see the court case for that because, it's really going to be circumstantial, with that. Because the next thing after that 50 or 500,000 comment is going to be, well, show me the contract you signed.
Right.
And it's like, well, you signed it for 50,000, not 500,000. It's like,
right, the paper will outweigh all that.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I don't care what they said on the phone. You signed an agreement.
Yeah, but how many contracts do you have that say, here's the price, but then travel expenses will be 10% of some of the consultant firms do it this way. They won't exceed 10% of the entire engagement.
Yeah.
And then, and so now you don't have a real number. And
right, but that again should be in the contract, type of thing. Well, I guess so. If that wasn't in the contract and it came down to, well, they told me, and that's the that's where it would get a little
Yeah.
interesting. It's like, well, you promised to do also this in the engagement. We didn't put it in the engagement, but you said you would also look at these IP addresses.
Right.
For
Or
free,
even just
know?
things that require verbal approval. Like
Yeah.
I'm working with a bunch of lawyers on a bunch of different things at any given time, and sometimes there's like, oh, okay, so do you want me to take this action? And that action might be notifying someone in a very formal capacity or
Yeah.
whatever. And the bill comes later, right? Because these people, individuals, are on retainers or whatever, and so I absolutely am sure there's going to be issues in the future where where the note taker mishears something and the person you're talking to even gets sick, and then someone covering for them reviews the notes and goes, oh yeah, you directed me to do X, Y, Z. It's like, no, I directed you not to.
Oh, right.
Like that stuff like that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the reasons every time I get on a call that has attorneys, the first thing they do is make me kill all the note takers.
Yeah.
They
yeah.
they don't let out
Sure.
recordings.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so I'm like, all right, hey team.
Like physically kill all the note takers. you know?
Yeah. No.
Take them out.
Yeah. No, I'm like, hey team, you're back to manual note taking. So who's typing?
Yeah.
Get this stuff down.
But even if not lawyers, like, I mean, even like, oh, well, you told this DBA to delete this table and start over, like whatever it is, right? There's just going to be things that require verbals typically that aren't like contraction, and that's going to get messy.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I think that people just need to start being aware of this. That's why I thought this was I don't know, it's not cybersecurity related. It's more just knowing what's happening. And I found it fascinating just the way it was presented. But you got to assume that, this AI voice analysis is just going to trigger biometric laws and
Lawsuits.
Yeah.
It's going to be a mess. I really don't like BIPA because of the civil lawsuit aspect of it. It's everybody hungry for a dime, for this.
Yeah.
There's a whole other topic with the cookie website
Oh,
cookies.
right.
Again,
and-
another worthless thing.
Yeah, but there are
Or
so
the
many
age verification for alcohol websites.
Yeah.
Are you 21? No or yes.
Right.
Well, I'm so glad they stopped asking me to scroll all the way down to my ear.
Oh, those are the worst. I mean, I should actually put it in the meeting notes. There's a worst consents test that you have to make it through in a minute and a half, and you have to answer all affirmatively based on the questions, and they're all different, and they're all real world examples of getting all this stuff to answer, and it's phenomenal. I'll put it in the show notes. I forget what it was. It is a phenomenal website that basically just runs you through trying to figure out how to say yes to whatever.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny.
that is great.
One other thing on this, though, and it's not really, it's kind of related to this, but not specific. I was thinking there's this interesting outcome that I suspect is going to start to happen from all these geographically based legislations. Because this is one of those things because it's Illinois, right? This one?
Yeah.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter where you are as a company, right? And it doesn't matter where the servers are or the data is or anything like that. It is one of the people that's being recorded, right, in that location. Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things that's naturally going to happen is you have things like GDPR that require you to know someone's citizenship, or BIPA requires you to know where someone is. You compound these on top. You're going to end up with a bunch of technologists that have a need to collect all sorts of information from a person before they know what rules can and can't be applied. So you almost have to do more monitoring to know what rules legally apply to a person in a given situation. And if this keeps happening with legislation, it's going to get real messy real fast.
Oh, yeah. So you're going to end up having at your company a notification that says, if you're from any of these 49 states, I can't have a meeting with you.
Right. There's going to be all sorts of stuff like that. It's what's your citizenship, and where are you physically located, and what's this, and what's this, and what's this?
Well, and then we haven't even talked about it, but there's the, either single party or dual party consent for recordings and everything that nobody really follows, into this,
Right.
but it is a technically real thing, that if you're in a dual party, one party is in a dual party, technically that one party has to consent, into that. But yeah, it could be both people have to consent, you know. Into it. So
Right.
not a single party consent.
I think the big takeaway for me is figure out if you need to have a policy, figure out if you need to have training.
Well, you do need to have a policy.
And then get your acknowledgments in place.
Yeah, and I would say like get the authorized tools in place, tools or whatever it is. And like any other, tool, like you don't want to do tool spread. You don't want to support unsupported tooling. It's a lot easier if you have your single stack and deal with it that way, So, I mean, meeting notes are important and people should be able to do that. So have one that meets the company's needs, and that's it.
I'll drink to avoiding tool sprawl.
Yeah. Easier said than done.
Right. Agreed.
All right. Moving on to the next topic here. GRC Engineering Meets AI. And I think Rick, did you bring this topic up here?
Yeah. So the reason I started thinking about this, and this could probably go in a million different directions, but the main thing I was thinking about recently was, if I think about the standard CIA triad, right? Confidentiality, integrity, availability. Mm-hmm. And I think about where, I'll just lovingly call them, including myself, security and compliance nerds spend their time, right? It's probably
in the 2000s, maybe, the CIA triad.
Well, yeah, but is it not still
I'm kidding,
the fundamentals?
Yeah.
But like, where do you spend your time? It's like 95%, confidentiality and availability. Like that's where people like integrity very rarely gets a lot of attention, right? And I was trying to think about like, well, why is that? It's like, was integrity never a big deal? Was it a bigger deal back in the days where like nightly batch processing was a huge thing and you could have a whole bunch of data that goes wrong overnight and then the business might not catch it, but now things have happened in a bit more real time and they've moved on. And regardless now, with the concept of AI and agents more and more being either let loose directly or indirectly, right? Indirectly being the business can basically batch process data at will via certain agents, or you can have autonomous agents doing things. You do run the risk of basically data drift, essentially, in ways that you didn't before.
Well, yeah, my take on the whole thing is that, when you had systems and you're putting in code and you're going through a good QA process, and companies have a dedicated QA team, what they're looking for is to make sure that the data integrity that's coming out of the system is right.
Yeah, rigorous SDLC protects for that stuff.
But what's
especially in financial systems.
Oh, yeah.
Or healthcare or engineering. Like there's a bunch of places where precision is important.
But with AI, it won't crash the system when integrity fails, but it will confidently give you the wrong answer.
Right.
And so what's happening there? And so now you're using a tool that has a little bit of flexibility in the output it might give, and a little prompt engineering, a little confusion, a little something might create it to give you different answers. So no longer you're dealing with that static processing black box of the code that's taking data in and out, and you get the obvious expectations at the end. Now you're having this AI thing do its work, and you may not know that you're always going to get the same answer. In fact, even prepping for this, I said, give me a quick summary of this.
Yeah.
And I said, I want you to include this, and then give me that summary back. Well, it changed the whole thing up when it gave me the second time.
Right. Well, and I think an important point is a lot of users in the business see IT as one big monolithic thing, and they see AI as an IT thing that they can leverage.
Yes.
And count on and rely on, and it should be accurate.
And that's the point, because they're used to relying on IT stuff that's gone through rigorous SDLC processes and doesn't have, fuzzy math underpinning a whole bunch of stuff. So now if it gets 80% of the stuff right, well, okay, I'm just going to use, I always use like AP as an example here. Nothing against AP people, but it's just an easy example. If you have a bunch of AP analysts that use AI agents to run their stuff over and over and over, like eventually you could get this concept of data drift that actually has a material impact to financial statements, but it could 100%. Be this insidious change slowly over time. So anyway, my whole point in thinking about this was, I think there's going to need to be a resurgence or a rebalancing of the integrity controls amongst the stack as AI stuff becomes more prevalent. Because you can fight some of it with like guardian agents and like this concept of like defense in depth using agents essentially. But even that, like how much do you rely on that? And frankly, how much do you have of that in place by default if you have just a bunch of AP analysts being able to write their own prompts and basically batch process live.
Yeah, and I think I was going to mention one quick story. I was just recently doing a SAL, and I had AI do a number of things, including like some of the work breakdowns and pricing and everything. And it gave me a nice little grid, as AI does. It makes it look nice and pretty, and broke down. It's like, here's the tables and the columns and format like this, and here's how I want the hours breakdown versus hourly rate, and sum it up,
Yeah.
And it did all that. And then I'm looking at the number. I'm like, the total doesn't seem right.
Wait a minute.
I copy and paste it. I put it in a spreadsheet. Yeah, absolutely. Like, math was way off, type of thing. And I'm like, yep, all right.
There was a thing we had recently where a team was using some AI to smash together a bunch of data really quickly so it could be presented to some executives. And it got pretty far along, like almost presented, not presented, but almost presented before someone had realized, oh, this pie chart is 120%, not 100%. Right?
Oh, wow.
And if you really want to kill your confidence...
That was revenue, right?
Yeah, right. If you really want to kill your confidence with an executive team...
Yeah, right.
Like, it's stuff like that. So, anyway, dangerous.
Yeah, and that's why I think, I'm not in the AI development business. I'm more on the consumption side of it, both for my tooling and personal. But I see more like Claude and a few other AI tools, they're starting to incorporate using tools more to augment what they're doing. So in this case, if they're adding up something, they might get a calculator, and actually say, add up these numbers and give me the result. And then I'll take that, type of thing, instead of throwing it into the AI model and then trying to figure it out. So I think, I was just doing something recently with Claude. They have something called Cowork, which is basically more interaction with your environment and desktops and a whole bunch of MCP connectors and all that stuff. So you can connect your Salesforce with your Notion, with your Intercom, with your HubSpot.
Oh, like an integration middleware type hub.
Yeah, basically. Okay. And then you have one chat prompt and say, do this.
Oh, neat.
And it will actually execute stuff for you, if you want, which is phenomenal. And it will actually do stuff locally on the desktop too. So you can say, clean up my desktop because I have files and folders and all that stuff. Anyways, going a little off track. Like, it does a whole bunch of stuff. I was really impressed. I was using the coding piece of that.
Yeah.
And it was debugging an API for me. And it's like, well, I don't know what's wrong with your code, so let me try this curl command. And it actually reached out to the API directly to query it, to say, like, okay, I expect this to come back. Okay, that's solved. Now, let me try it different with this. Oh, yeah, I see the error here. And now let me adjust your code. And it did this, like, recursive thing where it kept testing. Yeah. It tested my code, and then when there was faults, it adjusted and say, okay, I see what it's looking for now. Let me now go back and redo your code and everything. Yeah. So, like, things of that nature, that's where the agent base is going to be phenomenal,
but also dangerous. Like, I always say, like, the ability to, like, work at scale allows you the ability to screw up at scale.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's where it's like, there should be some gates, and like Claude, like, I was just playing with them a lot this week, so I'll say their name many times on the podcast here. But they've done a good job of making kind of safe things to do. Like, they put a lot of emphasis on being safe, and there's like different modes where it's like ask every time you run something, or these commands are okay, but don't run these commands, or there's like dangerous mode where it's like just do it,
right.
Which it has checked in code for me, type of thing. So you basically, there's a lot of ways of kind of doing that. I think. I think it's good. Another story I have on the integrity thing. With that, we had, it was one of the programs I ran. We had a database encryption software on the database. And we're coming to the end of our ROC. And one of the things that we discovered was we rolled out this platform like 4 months ago, this database encryption, for, I think it was like MariaDB and MySQL separation there. It came to be that it was causing data integrity issues, the encryption software with it. And once we had discovered they brought it to me as like, okay, we either pass PCI with data integrity issues, or we pull it and have to find another solution. And I made the hard. I was like, you got to pull it. Like, your business, you can't deal with like data. And it was a back end database and all that stuff, type of thing. So yeah, I weighed the cost for it, but I couldn't sign off on our ROC to say we encrypt data at rest, for this, this point in time, type of thing. And it only took about a month. We got another solution in place and everything, and it worked with that. But, that was one of those cases like, yeah, integrity is pretty important when you're dealing with like, financial data and all that stuff. And we had to restore the database multiple times while they tried to debug. They didn't know why they were getting data integrity issues, and then finally narrowed it down. It's like, yep, it's the encryption software.
Yeah. So how long did it take? Do you have any idea how long they were running before they actually realized they had data integrity issues?
Yeah, it was months.
And was that creating operational issues? Like,
yes.
Like what sort of operational issues could a company think would happen when?
Yeah, we were seeing errors coming back on like select statements and everything, like, or it was pulling back like garbage because the data wouldn't be able to be unencrypted,
okay.
Essentially it's trying to pull back encrypted data.
Did it go as far as like customers were receiving errored receipts or amounts?
Don't know about that. Not that I was aware of, at least, into that, but it could have. I mean, this was one of our primary database that it was both front end and back end that we use for our e-commerce, into this. So it was front end bringing in customers, and then it also served as kind of a back end to manage those customers as well, type of thing. So.
Finance is one of those places where it's important to have precision, but like when it comes to customer facing stuff, they're usually a pretty critical audience. So if you're having issues, they'll probably feed back. The places that I really worry about is like engineering applications, healthcare applications, where like maybe there are customers downstream, but it's removed far enough that real damage could occur.
Well, think about like environmental.
Yeah.
So say you have a water supply system.
Yep.
And part of the process is that you're treating the water with a certain amount of chemical mix.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And if the AI is supposed to be doing something, or somebody intentionally is able to make something happen, so that is no longer safe drinking water that's getting into the reservoir, then those are the kind of problems I think we worry about.
Absolutely. And in the integration of systems as well. So like one example, I was working a lot with some oil and gas companies a bunch of years ago, and part of their job is to poke holes in the ground to extract stuff, right? Well, you wouldn't believe how complicated it is to actually poke holes in the ground to extract stuff, right? So there's all these topological surveys and this, that, and the other, and land surveys, and someone owns the land, and you might be able to pull it up on one side of the property line, but if you pull it up on the other side of the property line, it's a real problem because someone else owns the material that's being extracted through there. And by the way, it costs like $1 million or some crazy amount to like poke a hole sometimes, depending on various factors. So like
it might not be worth it at that point.
Right. So if the AI makes an error of half a foot in some cases, it's potentially catastrophic from a profitability perspective and things like that. Like you could have major commercial projects, or even like, and I'm not suggesting this is happening anywhere that I know of today, but like I think like structural integrity of buildings or civil engineering or things like that, like as people use AI more and more and more, it's a fantastic tool to help people do better. But like you need to be able to trust it very thoroughly at the end of the day for some of these applications.
Your risk really changes. It's decision quality risk now that you're worried about over other kinds of risk.
And I say, like, would you let an intern do that themselves? And if not, maybe take a look yourself.
Yeah, and I think, we're basically talking about guardrails,
absolutely
at that
right.
point here. So, yeah, I don't think AI should ever, like, it will never be the Jarvis running, Stark Tower, it's like, oh yeah, it runs all the day-to-day operations into that. There has to be guardrails. So you were mentioning like the drilling or the what's mixing in the water. There are ups and down, like a good range where certain elements have to be within that.
Absolutely.
And that should be vital systems that have nothing to do with AI, you know?
Right.
In fact, when I first started like out of high school, I went into the transit industry and, you know, like railways and transit cars and all that stuff. And we literally had vital systems and non-vital systems.
Yeah.
Vital systems were on the train. So if something exceeded or went wrong on the train, only locally to the train, brakes went on, you know, type of thing.
Right.
And then we had a whole bunch of things outside like switching and routing
absolutely.
and all that stuff that were non-vital, you know.
Yep.
But if things went wrong on the train, we're slowing down to stop, and that's it until we correct it, you know, type of thing.
Yeah.
So
there's almost like a data category that's the analogy there. It's like, is this data that must be precise and correct, or is this data that you can have like a bit more, you know, flex with it?
And I think that's where, you need to have those guardrails too.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, now you two agents go add up the same row. And I want you to come to, and give me your conclusion blindly, you know?
This is where I always come back to like, you know, I always like treat him as an intern. An intern defensive depth is good, right? Because if two interns argue, you know, one of them's probably wrong. 10 interns is even better. But at the same,
both of them's probably wrong.
But at the same time, you know, you as the intern manager, like determines what they're doing and how they're doing about it and the context they have and thinking about it. So it's weird that there's even this human error factor that can seriously impact the agentic like execution of things, right?
Yeah. Did you guys watch The Pit?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
That's fantastic.
That's the show that's taking place in supposed to be Allegheny General, just north side of Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And Noah, I can't remember his last name, was on ER.
Yeah.
Now is the doctor on this. And this last episode, I won't give any spoilers, but this last episode,
I have not seen the last episode.
They had a different doctor who's coming in is going to hang out and be in charge of the ER for a little while.
Yeah.
And she brought along some new things. One of the new things was the AI system to talk to instead of writing all your charting. And as they're going through it, this is like what's happening during the episode. And they're saying, watch this. And then they went through and they talked about all the stuff for the patient. And it was, as they were saying it was just writing it down and transcribing it, and then it reorganized it and made it whatever. But it got one number wrong, and it actually had a problem. They made a really good point. They're like, she made a really good point to say, well, it's not 100% accurate. You have to review it. And I'm thinking, all right, well, you get a busy ER, and people are going to start relying on this stuff.
That's the problem. Yes.
Yeah, you do it 20 times in a row or 1,000 times in a row, and it never makes a mistake. At what point do you just stop like reading it closely?
Yeah, but I guess my counter argument to that would be how oftentimes do the nurses or whoever's taking
Human
the
error.
notes would actually make a mistake? And is it better than that, you know?
But the difference is that the person taking it, and they have personal insurance for that kind of stuff, malpractice insurance, and you'll still get human error. What point does it feel more wrong when the AI took the notes and you didn't proofread them and you missed the thing versus you wrote it wrong because you misheard it? And is one worse than another? I think the point they were making, it's going to be so much time savings and so accurate that it'll be less error prone than a person.
Yeah, and I think that's probably right. I mean, studies will show and time will tell, type of thing. But we look at that with, self-driving cars now. I mean, you have a Tesla, they are statistically way better in self-driving mode from a wreck, standpoint, that they would avoid wrecks, more oftentimes than a human would in the same situation, into that. In fact, I just saw last week, the week before, there's a popular insurance company that is now saying, like, if you have like a self-driving car, we're going to give you a discount.
I need to find that. I need to find that because my insurance is so high.
You know what's I've been predicting this for a while. You know what's going to happen next, though. At some point, I try not to be in the habit of predictions, but I can absolutely see this in the future. Fast forward 10, 15, 20 years, and I absolutely bet that it will cost a premium in your insurance
to actually drive the car yourself?
If you want to drive yourself.
Yeah.
Like once it becomes
Did you ever get the some of the insurance companies will give you this module you plug into the thing, and it will monitor and then send to the insurance company things like, are you going over the speed limit?
Those are crazy. Yeah.
Dude, I actually...
And did you see what Congress just passed?
No.
I didn't read into it too much, but basically their car manufacturers is now allowed to put a kill code, like a kill signal into your car.
I hate everything about that.
Yeah,
well,
I just saw that it kind of
has
snuck through and everything. I don't know the ramifications because they already had a little bit of that. Like if you had the Star network onto it, they could like remotely shut down your car.
Right.
Yeah, but you choose whether or not you have that network.
I guess, yeah.
Like, I mean, there's...
I choose to have a Tesla, and I know they can do that because
Right.
if I take it for service, I'm like, oh, I didn't do whatever. He's like, don't worry, I got it. And he just pushes some button on his computer behind the thing, and now he owns my car.
Yeah. The option to have the manual thing, I think, is useful. That's crazy. Well, but about the chips
And all the privacy people buy like old Chevelles and just go old school.
yeah,
know?
absolutely.
No electronics,
No
no chips.
electronics,
I want no chips.
straight mechanic.
Back to cassette players.
I had an employee several years ago who put one of those chips in her vehicle, and I remember so vividly, like fast forward a month after that. She's like, oh yeah, because discounts and whatever. And then we were talking, and she's like, yeah, I never should have done this because apparently I make too many left turns on the way to work. And from an actuarial perspective, my rates are now going up because of the number of left turns I have to make on the way to work.
That's dangerous, cutting in front of those other cars.
Whoa. I was like...
So now she just needs to make like 3 right turns and go straight, right?
I was like...
Right.
It was nuts. So
That is nuts.
Yeah. Anyway.
funny.
Well, so I was thinking about the integrity thing. The other thing that popped into my head on this topic just really quickly was... as agents do more and more and more, from a GRC perspective, right, there's going to be automated testing and evidence collection and this, that, and the other, right? So and there could be hallucinations. And I saw one quote somewhere, it was super funny. It was about vendor questionnaires. And like, oh, if something's automatically filling out your vendor questionnaires for you, you absolutely have to check it. And the quote was, hallucinated compliance is just fraud with extra steps. Which I thought was pretty funny.
Yeah.
But so one thing that might, if you have a decent program in place and you have some time and energy to start thinking about this, you should start thinking about your reliance and reperformance, like posture with respect to agentic testing, right? Like how much of that stuff do you have to look at yourself? How much of that stuff can you rely upon? How much do you have to reperform? All that.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Like we're turning into an environment where it's AI talking to AI, type of thing.
Right.
It's like, oh, you send me a questionnaire, I'm going to have AI just write it, type of thing. And then I'm going to send it to you. And then I'm going to ask my AI to summarize what your AI, wrote into it.
Yeah.
And it's just going to be like AI just writing.
Oh, yeah. The major GRC systems are already doing that.
Yeah, right.
Well, I say that happens with like insurance claims too, between like what brokers and underwriters and stuff like that. Like there are systems in place already that like negotiate amongst each other like a lot of the things that just sort of happen automatically. And then they're like looked at by the people at the organizations and all that stuff. But yeah, that happens.
At what point is AI governance questions going to start showing up in your SOC 2 audits?
Absolutely.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
SOC 2 will take a while, I think. I don't know. What was our last update? 2017?
Well, it doesn't mean the auditor won't start deciding they want to ask you about what kind of risks you're now needing to deal with.
And depending on the system and what they're doing, I guess it could fall into play.
Yeah, the scope and the operations.
I mean, you take the integrity part like that, trust service criteria.
And confidentiality and all that stuff. Yeah.
And then start finding out, have you considered AI risk?
Yeah.
We might get to that a little bit later in the show.
I'm curious, if you're listening to the podcast and you're a CPA company doing SOC 2s, please let us know if you've done anything with AI. I have not talked to any CPA companies that do anything with AI.
I haven't yet either.
Yeah.
But one of the things that, was, as I was reading through this stuff, I started thinking about, well, if we're really concerned with it being in the GRC realm, then at what point does it become policy, and at what point does it need to be audited as part of your program?
Oh, yeah.
And at some point, you're going to say, well, this is my design, this is my control. And I think you said one of the topics later is the ISO 42001, which is all about
We're not getting into that yet.
Protecting.
But yes.
Yeah, but we'll get into it later.
Yeah.
But if it's going to start showing up in those audits, then
Yes.
it's a matter of time.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I'm not going to talk about it now. No.
Yeah. Let's hold off.
Yeah, and I think so. I guess solutions out of this topic here. What should we be focusing on to tell our audience out of this?
I would think if you haven't looked at your overall control set and you're responsible for that stuff, take another look at it and really think about the integrity controls that you have in place and if they need to be bolstered, changed, applied slightly differently as AI stuff continues to accelerate.
I'll expand on that and I'd say go through your policies, go through the controls, and see which ones can translate into the actual technical guardrails.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be things. And then I was thinking, how is this different than administrative controls versus technical controls? Like thinking from maybe like the HIPAA realm, you have your administrative controls. These are the ones that
AI create policies and procedures.
Yeah. And but an administrative control is something a person kind of does, where a technical control is kind of like a preventative control.
Yeah, right.
And so AI stuff. So I always, this is a thing that I've thought about for a long time. AI is effectively like code at the identity layer, right? You can sort of treat it that way. So it's this weird blend between, again, if I treat it like an intern, it's like an intern robot. So are your controls administrative or are your controls technical? It's like, well, it's a little of both. It's actually this new blended middle ground because I can't fully trust it, but at the same time, it processes way faster than a person
tries
could.
really hard.
And you can point out a lot of stuff. So, but to your point, Joe, I think that's a really interesting thing to think through from a practical matter.
Yeah.
Like think about your administrative and technical controls and which ones need to blend into AI from both sides of that. And I'd also say from like an audit and straight GRC perspective, if you're thinking about these tools, your audit teams are thinking about these tools or, all that sort of stuff, if you're responsible for them, think about in advance, like how much you need to and want to double check the work and codify what that looks like up front.
Yeah. Maybe there's a standard that will help you align to that.
Right.
Yeah, and just I'll add my 2 cents before we go into the drinking bit here and everything. I think from an GRC engineering, I think we've only scratched the surface. Like a lot of it has been like automation and pulling controls and validating and simplifying, to what are the biggest pain points, which, is what AI is great for. Things that are repetitive in tasks and simplifying them to only a few seconds or minutes, into that. So like in Episky, we're putting in a number of AI stuff over the last few months. In fact, just this week, I put in our own model context protocol.
Oh, nice.
So now within your AI tool, you can actually hook in Episky and say, give me all the tasks that I have in the tool or issues or, and then soon I have it read only right now just to test it out. But it will soon be able to do like recommend good test procedures, for these controls and put them in.
Yeah.
Or I want good solid tests based on this, and this, throw it into the tool. And all of a sudden, I'm not even coding anymore. It's just I'm giving it availability to another tool to code, like to do the task.
That wasn't any of the demo stuff you gave me, though.
Oh no. Yeah, this is brand new this week, and so you'll be able to open up OpenAI or Claude or whatever it may be, and basically have a conversation with the Episky stack on what should I do next, where should I go, and eventually we'll actually integrate more of the chat stuff right into the web tooling of it. But this is kind of a nice shortcut to give that availability. I see that. And all the context protocols that are coming out for all these tools, it's going to be the new API integration.
Absolutely,
nobody's going to try to integrate their tool. It's going to be like we're going to integrate with AI with this, and then all of a sudden I'm going to be sitting down and saying, okay, GRC wise, why don't I just ask if our AWS instances are doing this? Is our AWS instances have multi-factor access on all regions and endpoints? And it's going through, it'll query AWS, it'll pull back all the stuff, it's like you're missing 3, and here are the systems and all that stuff. Or I got a questionnaire from a client. Are they an active customer? Okay, let me reach into HubSpot. No, they left 6 months ago, type of thing. Or, they're not an actual customer.
And then instead of having to waste my time asking that question, I would hope that a Pisky gets that built in so it just knows to go and say, oh, this customer, I have a control. I have to have MFA everywhere. Well, I'm going to proactively just go and query all the things you already told me I have access to.
Right.
And I'm going to come back and tell you what it is. And when you wake up in the morning, make your coffee, and there's your list.
Yeah, and it's great for that, but it's not cheap,
Right.
So every time you're doing that, you're eating up tokens, to whatever service.
Yeah.
If you're doing that for long term, an API direct connection and having actual context and drilling down to say query AWS for exactly this is going to be better in the long term. But I was noticing when I was doing some Claude stuff, it was actually looking up some tickets and other repos.
Yeah.
And maybe this is a bug somewhere in the software stack that we're using.
Very cool.
And it was using GitHub's API access. It's actually a command line, GH space API. And then it was querying the repos and doing search parameters. And it returned a JSON string that it then digested and looked to see if there's other stuff related to the problems that we were having.
Dude, there's so much. First of all, I fully agree with you.
Yeah.
I think that this hyper integrated context through MCP is going to be a thing.
Yeah.
But now that I'm seeing that vision that you've shared, I am terrified of AI spaghetti diagram.
Oh my goodness.
And the thing I know before is and the ability to screw up at scale.
Yeah, and that's where the access to identity access to agents and all that stuff, it would be and this is where it's going to be a whole platform building just for agents, with this. Because you look at this is, if I'm a GRC person performing a GRC role, and let's say that scenario where I'm saying, are they a real customer, type of thing, I should have some access to basically say yes or no,
sure,
type of thing. Do I need to know how much they paid over time, or that there's other information into there, or should I have access to the CRM, into that?
I would say no.
Well, I would say no as well. But if I'm in the customer, service, maybe I would just want to update a record. Hey, I got a new address, update it, to this customer. I should have access, but maybe not full blown. There are so much stuff that's okay, now I have to. Do identity, and it's almost per task or per agent basis. I read a good paper about it that it's not necessarily all the time it should follow the person. The person is a good indicator, but sometimes the person doesn't mean they should have the access. So if I'm a global admin, does that mean I should see everything in HR or finance's share drive?
Yeah, you might need to see it, but maybe that's an emergency access only because you're a steward and you're a trusted party.
Exactly.
Yeah, and your query shouldn't look at that by default.
And somebody in HR has a full salary spreadsheet, and even though I have access, doesn't mean I should theoretically grab everything back into context.
Well, that's where, so this is getting back to zero trust. Identity is the new boundary, right? And so thinking about this, instead of having one MCP that has the access, you have multiple that are just like users that you give them the access they need, and they can only do that job. And so I was starting to think about, all right, well, the whole thing, AI won't take your job. Somebody who knows how to use AI will take your job. Well, now I'm starting to reconsider that, because now you create all these things and you think about the scenario. You have your GRC system with all that has all your policies, and the AI knows what all your rules are, and it says, oh, I have a rule to make sure MFA's everywhere, and I'm going to go and check all this stuff. And as soon as it finds it, instead of you waking up and saying, I have to go deal with this report it found, instead, you now pass that off to a ticket system that creates a ticket for an engineer to go and adjust that AWS system to turn on MFA. But really, the engineer it goes to is some other department's agent who has the access to do that. And so what's happening is, in almost real time, you just tell it, we need to have these controls in place. Here's my my config profile. Go do it.
Right.
And it just starts interacting and checking, opening tickets, logging the fact that it's happening to create that audit trail, and allowing the other system to receive that, make the change, and then report back that it's done, and then it can go recheck, and then it can close the ticket.
So this is one of the topics.
Wouldn't that be an awesome environment?
Well, this is one of the topics I talk about a little bit. It's agent granularity, right? So how broad or how narrow are the agents that you have? Is your engineering agent an agent that can do 13 different tasks that all come into that ticket queue, or is there 13 different agents and each one performs only one specific task?
Yeah. And is it less expensive?
Serious pros and cons to each.
And Justin, when you were saying like you're going to use all your tokens, it's going to be this expensive, but at the end of the day, is it a $150,000 a year?
No, absolutely not. It's cheaper than person.
Yeah.
Doing a task almost every single day, type of thing. But I'm saying measuring from an API call to going through AI, an API call is going to be 1,000 times cheaper, type of thing. So, so there's places for it, and it's where you're interacting with context, is where AI is going to play well. If you're just do this thing and you know exactly what it is, you can make AI calls into that. But if you don't know exactly how to do that, AI could probably figure it out and then execute it for you.
But this is where orchestration layers get super important, because that's where you need guardrails on agents themselves to not go crazy in their specific focus task. Yep. And then you need orchestration layer guardrails so that it's just like attack chains, right? So certain things don't get chained together. It's oh wait, no, you shouldn't. This agent shouldn't talk to this agent, shouldn't talk to this agent, because that indicates a bad thing's happening.
Yeah. But you look at the MFA example, I think that would be a phenomenal thing if you gave agent or agents enough power into that. And even if it was just read only from a GRC perspective, we could say okay, why is an MFA turned on this endpoint here? Is it a Terraform misconfiguration that is in GitHub? Or did somebody turn it off? Does the Terraform say it should be on, that we're rolling it out and it should be on all the time, but somebody turned it off, and that's where you get to learn what's root cause here, type of thing. Or maybe it's all manual setup and it goes off and on as per people setting it, type of thing. Or you can even say AI, was it on and it turned off?
Go do a pull request.
Yeah, I want to see
the
logs,
Terraform and.
Yeah. Or that, and then do a pull request if that's the actual thing. Somebody screwed up the config file and it got through. It's okay, well, that should be it. And then write a new rule for Terraform for when it rolls out to make sure that setting is set. So now you're linting, updating the lints, to actually make sure that when configs go through, this is a check.
But this is the AI.
And that's where they're talking about, compound engineering.
Yes, exactly right.
If you're doing something and you're oh, that's a problem, go right into the file to next time it will catch it, type of thing.
But so one of the things though, and I talked about the AI spaghetti diagram before, right? So a thing that I think is going to be critically important as these worlds begin to develop and you end up with hypergranular agents assigned to specific controls or tasks that are all orchestrated together, is going to be this concept of, well, how are you building this such that changing one agent or one tool doesn't require changes to the 1,000 things that everyone in your business has built over the course of the past 6 months once you've turned this on. You need those abstraction layers and the concept of source control or whatever the various bits and bobs are.
And that's a big problem actually with AI right now.
Absolutely.
Is there, everybody's teaching it context and memory, into this. But the biggest problem that it has with memory is what happens when it changes.
Yep.
And I just had that the other day. Actually, when I was coding my NCP, I was doing some AI coding with it, and I changed the endpoint. I said, I don't make it NCP dash server, just make it slash NCP, halfway through me coding. And then 10 minutes later, it was trying to go to MCP dash server. Because remember, that's how I did it at the start, type of thing. I'm no. MC/NCP. Remember we changed it? Oh yeah, that's right. That's actually what it said. Oh yeah.
That cracks me up when that happens.
And I'm sure we'll see some clever things just have really good enterprise change control and make sure that all of your individual agents can also watch for change control to see things that might impact them.
Right.
But you're starting to build these ecosystems that are so fast. And it gets back to a thing that you hit on before, Joe, which is kind of like when everyone starts to rely on the speed that all this automation can provide, it's just as dangerous as being in a car going 100 miles an hour. If it stops immediately, boy, that's pretty painful, right? So if you then you make a change and it breaks 1,000 different agents in a bunch of different ways, that needs to be part of your DR plan, essentially, right? Depending on what you have these things doing.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to change my takeaway from figuring out which policies need to be
recorded.
Yeah. Well, you can have both, but my new improved takeaway is like, look, if you're going to learn, if you're going to train on stuff, and maybe we can get a guest in here who could take us through how does a person who, like, how long did it take you to just figure out how you wanted to do this stuff? You've been coding Episky stuff for years, so you've kind of come up with all this stuff. And so your learning curve though, to be able to get to the point of doing this was, quicker than others. But if you have a person out there who's not really in the middle of it all and needs to start figuring out what is the curriculum I follow, what is the way I figure this out,
right?
I would love to have somebody come and just sit down and tell people who are just like, they're in the industry, they're here for a couple years, they're like, you know what, I don't want AI to take my job. It won't. Somebody who knows how to do AI will take my job. Well, maybe not. It's somebody who knows how to create MCPs and create all the AI bots. They're the ones that are going to displace. And once they're in place and those bots are in place and they displace these people doing these normal things, it's the person who's going to have the oversight of that. The person who, and this is where like the auditor role isn't always the most glamorous role, but all of a sudden, if you're the person who can make sure that the system and all of this stuff is running right, you have to understand so much.
Absolutely.
In order to do that.
Absolutely.
And how do you get into that path? That's what I'd love to have a whole episode on career advice for people that want to do.
That'd be an interesting
That'd be good.
one.
We should do that.
So, hey, reach out to us if you are the person who can come in and speak to that.
Yeah.
I saw an interesting study over the last week, I think it was, where the perception of how much AI is saving your company. And down kind of at the grunt level, it was like single digits, like 5%, 7%, whatever it was. Up at the executive level, it was like 35, 40%. Like AI is saving efficiencies across the company.
The gap between expectations and reality.
Absolutely. It was an entertaining kind of survey.
Yeah, real example. I will instinctively know what I'm going to do, and then I want to just validate it. And then I'll ask a question, and then I'm like, if I would have just did what I was going to do, I would have been done. But instead, now I'm reading like 5 pages of AI-generated advice. And I'm like, half of this doesn't even make sense. This is not, I would never do that.
I did something today where I generated something like that, and I think my next 3 lines was shorter.
Yeah.
But that's like shorter.
It's like the new analysis paralysis is like chewing on all the data that AI might give you. That's very interesting.
One of my favorite takeaways, John Ziola says when he writes prompts, he's like, favor brevity.
Yeah.
So just write those 2 words at the end of your prompt. It's so much better.
Yeah.
All right. Well, why don't we go into our alcohol section here? Anybody need a refresh?
I would love more.
So we have for this episode Redbreast, which if anybody's a Scotch drinker, know Redbreast very well. They're very popular into it, and we got the 12-year Cask strength. It's a dried fruit and lively spice. I think they said with apricots and butterscotch and barley finish. And it is a triple distilled, matured in the finest oak casks, product of Ireland here. It is delicious.
It is so good.
It is. If you know Scotch, it's not as peaty. It has a very subtle.
So you can have a. It doesn't have to be from Scotland.
I think this is a whiskey and not a Scotch, right?
Oh, is it?
I think it's an Irish whiskey.
Oh, you're right.
Okay.
Oh, good. I might have got angry comments after the Irish whiskey, not Scotch. Could have been bad.
Hey, we could just bleep over all those those things. Justin was just swearing. That's what it was. It wasn't saying anything wrong about.
This is a really beep. Good.
Yeah.
When I say It'd be Irish whiskey. But yes, delicious Irish whiskey.
It's so good.
You know, and yeah, the Redbreast, I mean, honest, anything they do. I even had the Redbreast, the red label one, which is like 25 years or something like that.
I don't think I've had that.
Was it better than this?
You know, it's probably, but this is excellent. You know,
this is so good. I like pretty much, I don't think I've had anything from them. Not that I've had like hundreds of bottles, but I've had a decent amount.
Neither have I.
I've never had anything from them I don't like.
Yeah.
Like it's all very good from my opinion. So
they're a good one. From an Irish whiskey perspective, if you ever want to venture into that, definitely Redbreast. I think their standard is 8, if I'm not mistaken. That's Somebody will probably correct me on the tubes here. But yeah, this is a little bit more of their kind of mid-tier, I would say. And yeah, it's excellent. You get a little bit of smoky flavor, I get, onto the kind of middle tasting palate of it. Finished really smooth. What's the ABV on it?
It's 58 and change.
Yeah, 58. Yeah. So, yeah.
Which gives you a little bit of the heat, but it's not overbearing.
No, it's really
Honestly, for a
nice.
116 proof, it doesn't seem like a 116 proof.
No, it doesn't feel that hot.
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for vanilla, and I get a ton of vanilla from it.
Okay.
So.
Gotcha. All right, guys. Well,
cheers.
Cheers.
Clink. Oh, we're doing it?
I knew you could do it.
Quick break to hear from one of our sponsors. If you own security, compliance, or risk, and it feels like you're always pushing a boulder uphill, I want you to know about CISO. CISO helps growing companies get audit-ready, reduce risk, and stay resilient without drowning in tools, endless checklists, or one-time reports that quietly rot the moment the audit ends. This isn't shelfware. It's not drive-by consulting. With CISO, you don't just get advice. You get hands-on support from real security engineers, GRC specialists, and former CISOs who help you build, operate, and continuously improve your security program over time. Whether you're chasing SOC 2, ISO 27001, CMMC, HIPAA, or you're simply trying to get security under control so the business can move faster, CISO meets you where you are. Their managed VGRC model gives you enterprise-level expertise without hiring a full internal team or reinventing the wheel. The focus is simple. Clear priorities, practical controls, and measurable progress leadership can actually understand. Visit CISOLLC.com and start the conversation. Security you can trust, compliance you can prove, and people you can depend on.
All right. Welcome back to Distilled Security Podcast. Why don't we finish up here, gentlemen, with talking about, we kind of segued into it with a little break.
This is the AI episode.
Yeah, exactly. So ISO 42001. So if those that are not familiar with it, this is ISO's answer to AI governance. And they basically, if you're familiar with the 27001, they have their ISMS. This is their AIMS. AIMS.
AI management system.
Yes.
You got it.
When it's really tied to the EU AI Act, right?
It's tighter.
It's really close.
Yeah, so it has a lot of the attributes and everything out of it, but I think it would be arguably tighter to 27,000. You know.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's. Yeah, I think it bridges the gap pretty well.
Yeah, so it does align to the EU AI Act with that. And I think there's it's even accepted into that. Have you guys, either of you guys, worked much with this yet?
Yeah.
Not worked with it.
Okay.
Yeah, I picked it up, read through it.
Okay.
I mean, the main thing is you think we've been talking about AI risk this whole time, and AI introduces risk that goes beyond your traditional cybersecurity. So, whereas CIA, confidentiality, integrity, availability are what you're worried about.
Yep.
With 42001, you're really worried about harm. You're really worried about AI doing things it shouldn't. And you want to think about what are the consequences of it, where 27001 is asking, is information protected? Are risks like the CIA managed? 42001 is thinking more about what decisions does AI influence or automate, who is affected by those decisions, and if they're wrong, and then what harm could occur if those systems, if that happens.
Yeah, really, really tied to reasonability and fairness in a lot of ways. In that way, I see it a lot closer to a lot of the privacy legislation that exists than some of the security legislation.
Yeah.
Yeah, because 27,001 is protecting information, where 42,001 is looking to govern behavior.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people, you can extend out your 27,000 to also get 42,000.
Yeah, you need 27,001, and then you can come along and add on the controls.
That's not anymore. I thought you can actually now get a standalone 42,000.
I know you can do that with the 27,701 for privacy, but I haven't really looked into
701 for privacy. I thought it was 42,000.
Maybe.
I'm going to ask AI about AI governance here.
But I thought one of the things that, was interesting is it's hyper focused on the risk assessments. And like you said, well, I shouldn't say hyper focused, but a major component of it is risk assessments. And like you said, Joe, really about, fairness and ethics and those sorts of things. And so I guess one of the takeaways right out of the gate, given that framing, is if you are cybersecurity practitioner, certainly there are cybersecurity elements that are because the security part underpins, same way as privacy, like a lot of being able to do things in a safe and fair fashion. But if you're a security team that doesn't typically interact all that much with your privacy teams or legal teams and stuff like that, and you feel like you need to get this or start to walk down this road, you're going to need to start interacting with your privacy and legal teams, from my perspective.
Oh, absolutely.
Like this is going to be a joint effort. This is not like a sole focused, just cybersecurity person thing.
Yeah, and I'll blame it on the cold medicine. I think you're absolutely right. The 42,001 is a standalone cert you can get. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. AI said so.
Yeah.
And I told it in the prompt to agree with me. So it's absolutely right.
100% that's right.
What a good intern.
Yeah.
So, but with and with the 42,001, you want to really just look at the governance across design, training, deployment, monitoring, change management, decommissioning. Like these are things that are different than maybe ISO 27001, which is a little bit more control centric.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, 27,001, we have a breakdown in the notes. It's 93 control areas, 4 themes, organizational, people, physical, technological. 42,000 has 38 controls across 9 domains, and it's AI lifecycle focused into that.
So one of the things when I was reading through it that I think is going to be the hardest for organizations, again, it's the AI, is the concept like AI, just the definition of AI, right? It's not monolithic. It's not just one thing, right? It's a bunch of different things. So how do you define and scope AI? And obviously there's some baked in ones that you can use, but Joe, I'd rely on your ISO expertise here. I'd imagine like many ISO things, you can kind of define your scope specifically. If you want to veer from the definitions, you probably could. Is that true to some extent? Like if you want to define AI a certain way, could you scope and certify to, well, we're just going to do AI that, works in this way or this specific product as a for instance?
You do need to pick your scope and you need to define like what those, and this is like very similar across a lot of the ISO standards. And you need to look at what risks you're going to manage.
Right.
And here you're looking at an AI impact assessment. So all those things.
To Rick's thing, you don't have to include all the AI you're doing.
You
pick a subset.
You got to include the scope of your what you want your certification to cover, and it may be the processes for AI that are happening out of this business unit and not the other one.
Yeah. Or it could be like if I have a tool that has an LLM or AI interactions, maybe I just do the tool because that's what the customer cares about.
Right.
And that's why I'm getting the certification is the customer's going to ask.
Right. Their customer's going to go to your website and say, I want to buy this product. And then you're going to get a certification, not for that product being AI secured, but you're going to get a certification around your AI governance, your AI management system.
Within your product.
That governs that product.
But I think that's such a great distinction. Governs that product is potentially different or likely different than governs the organization as a whole.
Right.
And with this stuff, I think it's going to be...
Because they could have AI meeting notes that they're not considering.
Exactly.
Oh, right,
Might not be part
nature. Hey, we just got a Pisky and it has a bunch of AI stuff in it. But I think it's such a critical distinction because even like the definition of AI, and then another element in here that I think is hard. So once AI is defined, you have to do an AI inventory.
Yep.
And so again, if your scope's tight and you know what you're like attacking, that's not the end of the world. But if you're going to be like, oh, we want our organization to be certified to this, ooh, you're going to be opening some closets and turning over some stones if, in many cases, you have marketing teams doing various AI bits and bobs and finance teams and all these different things.
You probably won't scope those in because your customer may not be, they're not buying the
if that's your purpose.
Yep.
And so, I think from a practical matter, I guess, like anything, sort of start small. Start with a very specific scope and then potentially expand
Well, it's
outward.
interesting. I haven't thought about this, but then like if you're integrating a vendor into like your product or something like that, and they claim like AI, but it's not really AI, type of thing. You're like, all of a sudden you're like now have to flush out the marketing only AI
but this is why the definition matters so much.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, because I think the first thing is defining AI systems in scope, so what counts as AI, into that. I mean, do you count, like just something crunching some numbers and doing kind of a natural process language processing, into that? That's not making kind of deterministic or indeterministic like choices. Mm-hmm. It's just like kind of compiling like what the sentence is mostly like. That's not AI technically.
Sure. But let's use your example from earlier.
Yeah.
You talked about taking you're building a quote, you're building a statement of work, and the AI did a lot of good stuff. I use it for this too, and it generates a list of tasks, and then you can have it estimate hours, and then you hope it adds it all up. And you think about it, and you're like, how are you using that? So if you were going to get your process for so maybe you're a large company and you want to still use the AI to, at scale, build SOWs to make all your salespeople a whole lot faster.
Yep.
So it can happen at one person, or it can happen at 100-person company, and you're going to use AI to do that. So you think about this. What is the harm? So the harm that could have happened is you could have just relied on that. Your intelligence didn't jump out and say, oh, I'm going to double check these numbers because that doesn't gut feel look right. And the harm then becomes that. So if you do your AI impact assessment, you might say, well, I'm going to build an SOW. I'm going to let the AI build the SOW. Well, the impact could be, the task could be wrong compared to what I need to do to implement this for the customer. Yeah. Or this hours could be wrong, or the math just taking your billable rate times the hours is doing that wrong, or it's just totally it wrong. So these are all your risks. These are what could go wrong.
Right.
And then what is the harm? Well, at this point, the harm is, you could have had a reputation damage because you sold them something and you sent them this, and they're like, Justin, this doesn't add up. What are you, crazy?
Right.
And if it's less, they're going to sign immediately.
Right. They'll be like, and then, now you're getting into the other harm.
Yeah.
Maybe you've just committed in this contract to spend the next 3 months doing this thing, and you're going to get 4 days worth of pay.
Right.
Well, now who in society is being harmed? Your family, because now you're not bringing home the same amount of money.
Yeah.
And so now you're thinking about all these things.
Well, and from an ethics and fairness perspective too, like what context are you feeding it, right? If you're feeding it your history of sales in the past, and maybe those haven't been, maybe your strategy has changed significantly in the past couple years or whatever.
Maybe you raised your prices.
You raised your prices.
You added a PIMA charge into a customer, and then it goes.
the PITA tax.
Yeah.
But
and then all of a sudden it actually puts it as a line item, and the customer's like, "What's that?"
Well, it could be that, but it could also be like
for pita chips.
It could also be kind of insidious, where it's like, well, for various legitimate reasons, contracts in this part of the world seem to cost more, like this much more. Well, now if it starts applying that as a surcharge, that's like from an ethics and fairness perspective, like, now there is like weird potential harm.
And maybe that's
happening.
not even a brand thing. You just start losing business because you're way, outquote, like, overquote. You're overquoting in other regions that you're not appropriately.
Or there could be regulatory issues or all sorts of various things.
Or discrimination.
That's exactly right. So I think
discrimination.
Well, imagine that you are selling business to consumer, B2C, and you now are adjusting your price based on a certain model, and maybe that the person puts in their zip code, and it's a particular area where
this is with mortgages and all that stuff.
Yeah, it gets back like the bias context.
That's a great example.
Impact and all that stuff and everything. Even though, I mean, it gets in a little bit of political, stuff of that nature because, you see from the bank side, they're like, well, it's basically in the slums. So anybody in the slums in that zip code, like
it's higher risk
it's higher risk. Yeah, exactly. Like it's historically costs more. There's more claims coming from that zip code. I can prove it. But then you get, whoever is on the DEI, side of it, they're like, well, but that's 80% black. So are you looking at 80%, and that's why you're charging more into that area?
Well, and I think that's just the thing that you have the defensibility of it matters, right? Are you making this, are you doing a calculation and the calculation is fair and ethical and all that stuff? Or are you just saying, well, this is an easy, and I'm suggesting like AI in this case, right? Does AI then take this context and say, oh, well, an easy shortcut is if someone lives in this area or if someone looks like this thing or whatever, like I can just make this assumption. Then there's a difference, obviously.
I mean, it's interesting. Like I actually, this is how boring of a life I do. In some of those, like I actually saw on C-SPAN, like some of those congressional hearings where they brought some of the bank executives. They're like, we don't even collect race as a determining factor. Like we don't know what race is. They're like, well, you could tell by their name. It's like, okay, like, come on, And again, they're trying to do a point. The banks are bad. Blah 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 blah.
Right.
Everybody's greedy. I get it. The political game. All that
but
stuff.
from an ethics and fairness risk perspective, so back to 42,
it's justified. Like if I can show like claims in a certain geographical area, and this is why my rates, and I don't care if you're what your race is. Like anybody in that zone gets this.
But I guess I'm saying from like an AI perspective. Like if the risks are ethics and fairness, like okay, well, how are you addressing those risks? And then also even just the concept of legal defensibility.
Yeah,
I don't know. I throw it into the AI black box and I put in all this context and it spits something back out is definitely different than. Well, here's specifically how we've instructed the AI, and here's how we're mitigating risks that could plan out, and here's how we do like human in the loop processes,
for positive or negative, type of thing.
Absolutely.
In fact, there was a big thing where like they were trying to make it more diverse on like some of the image generations,
Oh yeah.
And I was seeing like some of the people were like, well, give me a picture of like the French Revolution and some of the soldiers, and they'd have like a Chinese person in there and a black person, and it's like, well, that's not historical, but
that's such an interesting.
They were trying to put in more diverse, but obviously wasn't coming out as historically, accurate.
That's such an interesting point too. Like injected model bias,
right? Exactly,
which might have unintended consequences in any kind of thing. So anyway, any decision making capacity, right? Like again, ethics and fairness and defensibility and blah, blah, blah.
I think there's arguments on both sides because I really like Elon taking over Twitter and doing Grok, if nothing else, doing a counterpoint to the rest of the AI industry, because he was big on open AI is kind of ruining it because they were putting a lot of that bias in, to try to make it kind of cleaned up. But then you look at, Grok was, like pretty open, with a lot of the stuff, but then it turned into an angry teenage Nazi girl, within like a few weeks of the internet, like, oops, you're like, all right, we need more guardrails, type of thing, so like there's arguments on both sides that I like, into that, and you can go too crazy on either, into where you put the right guardrails and where you put, biases on either side. It's all biasy at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's just managing bias and making sure that you have a consistent and defensible approach.
Yeah.
Right. But anyway, I think the defining what is AI and then the inventory of AI stuff in broad scopes is going to be hyper painful. So like narrowing that scope will be a useful thing if you're actually going after this. I also thought one of the things that was interesting was this concept of, you're supposed to redo these AI risk assessments periodically, and that periodically can be time-based, but also like when major things change. Right. It just put me in the mind of like pen tests, and like, let's be real from a security perspective, like how many people actually redo their pen testing when something material changes.
It's
I mean, that like practically never happens.
I can probably count on one hand the amount of times I've seen that through PCI. Because
Right.
they have the same thing in there.
Right.
Do this at least annually or upon
when a major thing changes.
A significant change and everything.
It's like, well, we define significant as, and then like you never have to do it.
Or the QSA never gets it or never determines that it was a significant change.
And how much control do you have over if the model that you're relying on, if they're making updates?
Yeah, right. I think that's a fantastic point. And then you're obligated to re-risk assess because I understand the chain of logic. Yeah, I mean, when something could materially impact the decision-making processes related to the risks of your AI
any
stuff.
new model that comes out, you need to redo the impact assessment?
I think it depends on your scoping and the risks that you've defined. But if there's the potential for the new model to impact those risks in a material way, my understanding is you would be obligated to rerun.
So what I think you need to have... I think
that's kind of crazy on the timing.
So I think you need to have is in your own procedure, your own governance that says how you make that decision.
Yeah.
Like that's what you have to document.
Yeah.
And it can't be small. And to your point, like small, medium, large. Like, is this such a major change that we need like a full-on net new risk review across the board? Right. Or is this small enough potentially that a senior enough person can look at it, think about it, maybe get a second opinion as well and go, oh yeah, we're good.
Yeah. So Justin, when you're writing some EPISCI like MCPs, are you able to peg that to a particular version of Claude that it's going to use?
We use Vercel's AI Gateway. So we have like over 100 models that we can actually like within 20 seconds switch to.
So if Claude does a new rev, you can make the decision. So your 42001 governance can say, well, if we switch from a major rev of Claude, like OpenAI went from 4 to 5, and that and as soon as it went, like my results were just going crazy for a little bit, and using your words, bonkers, right?
Yeah.
And then, but if you were doing that, you could say, oh, you know what, we're gonna evaluate, and you might just do this naturally. You would probably, knowing you, would be like, oh, I'm not going to just like switch it to that new one. I'm going to do some testing and do that. And then to get 42001 around it, you're going to like codify in some rules or some governance. This is my procedure to decide how I switch from that to that.
Yeah.
This is standard change control and best practice stuff, right?
Yeah, and I think, so I guess there should be a process.
Yeah.
I guess a full-blown impact assessment is where I'm like, okay, that's not warranted. Like if the process is exactly the same, you're just testing input-output at that point.
Oh, but that could be your risk assessment process, like ensuring that input-output remains.
Right, exactly. But that's not the full-blown impact assessment. Like you already know the potential ramifications of the impact.
Yeah, you're just doing the delta.
Yeah, exactly. Like, is the same inputs getting the same or better outputs? Type of thing is really what you're looking for.
And so as you're building that process, you're going to evaluate.
And it should be for any change. Like, it's less of a concern for minor model updates, like 5.1 to 5.2 on OpenAI. But if it's like to a whole new model like Opus 4.5, which is Claude or Gemini or whatever, Copilot or something like that, you're switching that. You're testing full-blown regression testing on how you're using that.
And so is it going to affect people, the organization, or society?
Right.
And so if you're taking those things into account and your governance based on the risk that your company can tolerate, do you make a decision that you're evaluating that, and as top leadership, you're like, you know what, that I did evaluate the risk of that, and so with your GRC tool, you're not going to negatively affect teenagers who are online doing stuff that AI might be generating whatever for. So like these tools that are out there, these AI friends that you can get, and or these toys now that are coming with like AI responses and that kind of stuff, and they're storing and they're reaching out and they're that kind of stuff. Those companies who are building these toys and these products that are going to use AI,
like Meta has like AI people, right, that interact, or like I think Instagram and all that. Like I think there's legit accounts that are fully AI run, like intentionally
Well,
from
about
the
a
company.
year ago, we talked about a toy that was actually being out there that was recording stuff and then sending it out, and then the results would come back and it would speak these results, and it was an AI toy for kids.
Oh, I remember that. Oh, what are the BIPA implications? No, never mind. We're past that.
What were you going to say?
I was going to say, like, in the mid-2000s, I was setting up, like, fake bots on AIM and all that stuff that responded to people.
Oh, yeah.
But those were, like, just taking, like, bits
Static,
and pieces
right?
of the sentence and turning it around, like it understand what the subject and the verb and all that stuff was, and then turn it around into a question, or it would actually interact weirdly with people.
Well, if you were a full-time marketing exec, you had AI back then.
Yeah, exactly.
but now, there's full-on
conversation, and all that stuff, and it's good and bad. Again, it depends on the guardrails and everything. So we have a little bit of AI. We use a tool called Intercom for our main kind of customer interaction support and all that.
You
stuff.
showed me that a little bit. That is a very cool tool.
It's a very powerful tool, and we don't use it to its full potential. But some of the stuff that's really nice is like we can put interactions into like Stripe for your payment. So like, hey, I'd like to make a payment for this, even though you can go through the website. If you're interacting and like, oh yeah, I'd like to upgrade. They're like, oh, okay, here, right in the tool, we'll give you like, click on this and go pay for it.
It's like an agent that can just help you.
And that's what it is, and it basically has connectors that understands your context and then basically makes his decisions and offer up the tooling that may help or may not.
Yeah.
So,
That's very cool.
Yeah, it's pretty good. And a lot of the AI, in fact, I just had it this past week here. There were some potential customers that had a little bit of trouble getting in.
Yeah.
And communicating over AI. I was like, oh, yeah, let me take a look at it. And I had Intercom create a linear ticket, which is our development tickets.
Yeah.
It wrote up the ticket based on what they said, into it, filed it into it. We worked on it. We closed it same day, and it communicated back to the customer that this ticket was closed on their issue, into that. And all of a sudden, and you can actually look in your Intercom and actually see oh, yeah, I opened up something and it was closed and, and it should be all fixed now. And now you got this communication path, with the customer. They're happy that their problem got solved and fixed. You're happy that, you got basically a workflow to do that and not another email and email.
Yeah, how much time
did
that save you?
Oh, a ton. I didn't have to hop to one tool to another tool to write something, to write it, to file it, to all that stuff. It was just in it. You did the coding, which I think was AI too, type of thing. And then finished it up.
That's cool.
Same day, got it fixed.
Well, Joe, so if there's an organization that maybe they have a 27001, maybe they don't, but what if an organization thinks they should start to wade into the AI, ISO certification, what should they start thinking about right now?
Well, they probably already have, so if you have a 27001, you already have a lot of things in place. So you have your policies, you're doing your normal processes for risk assessment, management review, internal audit. All these things are very consistent across a lot of, or almost all of the standardized ISO standards now. And so, you want to think about what is your governance. So the 9 areas that you mentioned, I believe it was 9 or 10 areas, and they're things like your AI governance and accountability. So the clear ownership. So you want to define these things. Define the roles and responsibilities is very important. AI risk management is really talking about the identification of the AI-specific risks.
Yep.
And then that's what leads you into an impact assessment. So if this risk came to fruition, what's that going to be? What's the harm? What's happening there? You need to understand your AI lifecycle management. So that's a whole area. You have things like data governance and then human oversight, things like that, transparency, and explainability. So you want to be able to have all of that stuff documented. And then some of the normal stuff that's like the same on a lot of ISO standards, competence, training, awareness, incident management and response, like what do you do? Continuous monitoring and improvement. So these are all the same. So if you're already building a program and you already have ISO certification in some areas, and you wanted to extend it, you likely can go find an auditor that can do both. So your certification auditor probably can do 42001 on top of the ISO 27001 and 27701.
I was going to say, that's interesting.
They have to get certified.
Do they? I was going to ask that. Yeah.
What's that?
They have to be certified.
Oh yeah. So there's a lot of them out there that are. I was just talking to. There's a couple different certification bodies, like ANAB is one of them that certifies auditors. And I was talking to the auditor who actually was the first, I think, anywhere or at least in the country to have the 42001
Gotcha.
ability.
Now, I'm curious because I don't think they can. With 27001, I know this because I got a provisional auditor at one point with it. One of the requirements to become a full-blown lead auditor was you needed 3 audits underneath your belt, into that.
Well, that's a very good. I don't know the answer to that. Because
for new certs, I think they waive that.
I mean, they have to.
For a minute.
Since there's no lead auditors out there that can do that,
Right.
the existence has to be nil, or maybe they say you have to be 27th. I don't know. I never looked into.
I think you can get your stripes on. I think, and this is based on some certifications that I had a long time ago, so it could be lapsed at this point.
Yeah.
But I think you can get your stripes on a different cert.
It could be.
To your point, like if you've done enough 27001,
if you're a lead auditor over here,
you can,
as long as you pass the test,
like grandfather the experiential clause
over there. That could be. I don't know ISO well enough because all I did was do the provisional auditor on 27,000.
I was a lead auditor at one point, but it's definitely lapsed.
Like
for
full lead auditor or provisional lead auditor?
I think full. I did enough.
You did 3 audits.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So anyway,
it's hard to do that without. We did that as a security company in the mid 2000s. A bunch of us got trained, but I don't think anybody read the fine print on it. It was like, we can't be like so, and we never did pull the trigger to actually hire a lead auditor.
Yeah.
So we're just basically a bunch of provisional auditors, provisional lead auditors, but
the training, but not the.
We couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
Like we all passed the test. We're all that. We're provisional. Oh, okay, great. You can't do anything.
Yeah. So I guess the big takeaway here is that if you're going to be running systems, and again, any audit you're going to get, let me back up a little bit, is somebody comes and says, should I get a SOC 2 audit? Should I get an ISO certification? I'm like, well, let's talk about why. How's that going to help you? How's that going to actually make your company generate more money?
Yep.
How's that going to be a benefit to your organization? So we figure out like somebody comes to me and says, oh, I want to get ISO certified. I'm like, all right, tell me, what are all your customers asking for? Every day they ask for a SOC 2. I'm like, why are we talking about ISO? Let's talk about SOC 2, right? So let's get the right thing figured out first.
Yeah.
So whatever it is. So if you're a company who is looking to get a product that's going to heavily rely on AI as part of it, and your customers are going to be asking you for some kind of third-party vendor risk management, because if they're talking to any of us, we're probably working both sides of that conversation.
Exactly. I got asked from a Pisky if I had a SOC 2 or ISO.
Yep, I was on that call.
Oh, yeah.
And so if I'm guiding a customer who's going to go buy stuff, I'm telling them, look, you need to have a solid third-party risk management program. You need to go ask all these questions.
When I say
all the questions.
Product, but also like a service that's supported by.
Service.
Well, it could be a product that's AI enabled or a service that's supported by AI. So either way, but clients could come calling.
And then I'll go at the same time have a conversation with a company who's building these tools, a software tool, whatever it is, and they're going to say, I keep getting asked all these questions. I keep getting asked if I have a SOC 2 or how I'm, what kind of external audits do I have? And so, I can help both sides.
Yeah.
And as we do that, we're saying, well, what do you need? What risks do you need to manage that if you explain this is going to make the customer sign a line.
Right.
And if it's and if you're an AI company and that customer is really worried about that, so at what point do we start telling our own customers, hey, when you do your TPRM, your third-party vendor risk management reviews, when are you going to start advising your customers to go and, you know what, you might want to start asking if they are 42001 certified. Like, has that come up in any of your advice that you've given anybody yet?
It hasn't yet, although one of the programs that I'm particularly close to at a client, we're going to start doing more specific vendor risk management stuff in the AI space specifically. And so I imagine that'll be one of the shortcuts that can be used, right? Hey, do you have this, or do we have to ask you this bucket of questions?
Right. And if they're actually going and writing their own AI tools for their customers and they're relying on somebody else's,
exactly
now
fourth party risk, all that stuff. Yeah.
So you want to understand how it works both ways on that. So my advice is, as soon as you think you're going to need to get ahead of this, start looking at something. I mean, NIST has the NIST AI framework.
Yep.
You could use that. You can't get certified on it because NIST doesn't have specific certifications.
CSA has an AI framework.
You could do that. You can get some certifications from places for certain CSA is Cloud Security Alliance, if anyone was wondering.
And their certification, I think, is coming later.
Yeah.
They're just rolling out their AI stuff now.
Yeah. Like they have the STAR and other certs now.
Exactly. And I think it's planned that this will eventually be certifiable.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so you have these, but then you could always ask a CPA firm, just similar to a SOC 2. A CPA firm can come in and follow the AI CPA standards and write an attestation, their opinion on. It's not a certification, it's somebody's opinion of whether your design is good and the controls are effective.
That's a fantastic note. You're absolutely right.
And you can do that for anything. You can make your own framework. You can have the Rick and Justin framework for how to drink whiskey at a podcast, and you could have an auditor come in. Yeah, you can have an auditor come in and say, "Here's all of my design, and here is our evidence."
If you're a third-party auditor,
we'll do some evidence
interested
testing.
in supporting this.
Yeah.
And it's a certification once a month. Is that what?
No, not a certification, attestation.
Attestation.
It's their opinion of whether we're following our own rules.
But at least monthly, right? At least monthly.
At least monthly.
Well, the controls are executed monthly.
So, people get all hung up on like a SOC 2, all this other stuff. Right. At the end of the day,
they just want a third-party opinion.
You really need a third-party opinion. Usually gets you to the point of where you need to be. So whatever it is you're doing, if you're doing it the right way and your design's solid, you have a framework that you can pull from that somebody can look at and say, that makes sense. A SOC 2 is nothing more than just some specs for what that design ought to look like.
It's just a structured
ISO
third-party
is the
opinion.
same thing.
Yeah.
NIST CSF is somebody's opinion of what is a good security framework, and there's no reason that the Distilled Security Podcast couldn't go out and just audit some third party, some company, and we could write an opinion. Joe, Justin,
no deviations noted.
And so, like, the three of us could just go and write that, give them the paper, and they could say, "Hey, we got this." Well, great. It's the Distilled Security logo right there on it. And if that closes a deal with one of your customers, that's legit. That's good enough.
I had a customer.
So if you're interested in sponsoring,
I had a customer one time that they got a SOC 2 from a data center or something like that, and we were reviewing it, I think for PCI or something. And I open it up and start going through executive summary, blah, 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 blah. And I'm going down to the controls, and nothing there. They deleted the entire bottom section of the SOC 2.
I love the SOC 2 that should have been a SOC 3.
Yeah, and I'm looking at this, I'm like, where are the controls? They're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, there should be controls here. And we reach out to the data center company. They're like, we consider that confidential.
Yeah.
I'm like, just be honest. You had a deviation. It got listed in there. You deleted it. Come on. Like,
if those were all green checks, would you have deleted it?
Yeah, exactly.
Right, yeah, and that's another thing. You know what? We've been talking about this for a while. Stay tuned for a future episode. We're going to do one where we talk about SOC 2.
This is true.
How to evaluate it, what's important, what doesn't matter, when to use it. So
I might have to go through my hit list of awful references for SOC 2 and other reports and everything. I think that would be a fun thing. I won't name names, I might get in trouble.
Well, the
for
best
that.
thing is some of the notes that we started to put together already. The first line of it was the SOC 2 certification. Oh no! I'm like, and AI. That was obviously AI generated, so we got to fix that AI.
Well, just one quick takeaway for me on the 42001 is because the risk assessments are so closely aligned with more ethics and fairness as opposed to security, super strongly recommend, as I noted before, if you can lever the processes and or tools that already exist in your privacy or legal teams, these risk assessments are going to mirror those a lot more clearly than they're going to mirror your typical cybersecurity assessments. So strongly recommend
it's basically risk. You're identifying risk in the AI, process.
And it's very like human risk to people kind of more centric. Like it's AI, but it's really targeted towards, is this going to hurt someone?
Controls and putting guardrails in.
Absolutely.
Or tests for validation or whatever it is.
But 27001 secures data and 42001 governs the AI decisions.
But so anyway, I highly recommend if you can reuse the tools and processes more on the legal and privacy side, probably going to be an easier route than trying to reuse if you have a separate risk assessment process on the security side. You'll kind of be shoehorning it in.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts?
No, I think we hit on a lot.
Yeah.
This was great.
It was good timing and everything. So, all right, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We'd love to hear from you. So don't forget to comment on all that. Don't beat me up on the Irish whiskey versus
we caught
Scott.
it.
Yeah.
Caught it.
It's self-correcting.
We'll bleep it out. Bleep it all out. All those are swear words. He was totally
We'll
swearing.
dub everybody over with AI voice, stuff. It'll all be correct and probably funnier with that. So
AI, remake this podcast.
Yeah, exactly. All right, everyone. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. Bye.